I'm sitting here with Dan Morrill. Preserve Mecklenburg is partnered up with Stanley Avengers out of Albemarle, North Carolina. We basically serve the Stanley County community, and he's in the loop and helping us with the Kingville Project. Why do you think the Kingville Project is important, Dan?
Because it's an artifact that is a reminder of the endurance and capacities of some remarkable people, both black and white. At the head of the list is Booker T. Washington, a black man who had a dream about educating African Americans to make them fully participate in the American dream, and Julius Rosenwald, a white man who was head of Sears Roebuck Company that gave a lot of money to build these new so-called Rosenwald schools for black children in the days of Jim Crow and segregation.
Okay. And part of the Kingville Project is bringing what they did 100 years ago as far as teaching trades, skills, and arts into 2026, and teaching kids today STEM, trades, and arts. And you guys have been doing this for a while, and we've learned a lot as far as the process of historic preservation. Most people don't even know what those buildings are off Lundex and Washington Lane. Most people call it the old schoolhouse. Some people call it the Dust Bowl. Some people just call it deteriorated buildings that need to be knocked down. What do you say to those people?
Well, I go back to what I said before. They are artifacts. They are important, significant historic artifacts. There were over 800 Rosenwald schools in North Carolina, more than any other state. Less than 20 of them had teacherages, which were places where young teachers lived while they were teaching in those Rosenwald schools. So it is something that people can see that tells them about this incredible story and contribution that black folks and white folks working together have made in enriching the culture of this country.
Awesome. And there's going to be there's a path ahead of us, right? And we can see a light and we can see a doorway. So as far as the community, you've spoken with the owners. You've been working on this project just as hard as Stanley Avengers have. What are the next steps for the community?
Well, the next step, period, is the owner's decision as to whether or not they will agree to allowing an exclusive option, assignable option, to buy the property to be held by Preserve Mecklenburg or some other entity. That's the next step. Then it's going to be raising enough money, finding out what fee, if any, they want that to be paid for a 6-month or 1-year exclusive assignable option to buy the property. So the next big step is to find out what the owner wants, how much he wants for the option, and to raise the money to provide that deal.
And last question, or next to last question, why would an owner want to help with the project as far as preserving the site?
Well, obviously I cannot go inside the mind of an owner, but it is totally understandable that an owner wants to get a fair market price for their property. So I would anticipate, it's very easy to be idealistic about property that you don't own. When you own the property, the vast majority of people are going to want to maximize their return on that investment. And that's understandable. I don't at all condemn them for that. But also, this is going to say a lot about, as it would with anyone, if the owner and we cannot find a way to move forward with the option, and the buildings are torn down, that is going to be legacy of that owner, regardless of who the owner is. So the owner will have to make a decision about their commitment.
All right, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well today.
All right, awesome. So tell us your name, who you are, and what's your role in the Kingville Project?
My name is Stefan Pienkny. I am an architect. I've been an architect here for many, many years, for well over 20 years with Gant Huberman Architects. Now I'm on my own. And I'm also with now Preserve Mecklenburg Inc., where I do a lot of architectural consulting to the organization. My interest in the project is historic preservation. This is where Preserve Mecklenburg is. And I'm trying to help the Avengers organization to see how we can preserve the building for future use, particularly for hopefully workforce development and historic property preservation.
Okay, cool. All right. A lot, Stefan. I appreciate that. Now, you visited the Kingville site of the first historic black school in Stanley County, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What stood out the most to you about that during that experience?
So for one, it's I was very impressed that this is still one of the remaining Rosenwald schools in the area. There were apparently well over 100 Rosenwald schools in North Carolina, South Carolina, but not that many are remaining. And so this particular one it had a teacherage where the teachers used to live. Many of those actually didn't have a place for the teachers to live. They were just classrooms. And I'm excited to see that possibly we could reuse those spaces as classrooms.
Awesome. And what could restoring the Kingville site mean for the community?
I think that it's very important that the historic facts and artifacts for the community, particularly the Kingville community, are in place that remind of what that community was like, how people made a living over there, what was the education at the time over there. It's very important to keep a thread to the past, because without the past, we really don't have a good future. We don't have a good foundation. And that is the foundation of what we're building on.
Awesome. And what would you say to someone considering supporting the project?
I think that for people that are interested in, first of all, in historic preservation, but also in addition to providing a space for workforce development, it will be something that's of major importance. There's a huge demand for workforce development nowadays, particularly with development of AI, where we're going to lose certain jobs, for example, in coding and so on. But on the other hand, laptops and computers are going to be in existence, even more so. So people that can repair it, maintain it, update it, cell phones that can be repaired and so on are going to be in high demand. That's just an example. And so that's the practical interest, rather than making a building that's going to be just a museum for when you have to have additional fundraisers to keep it in place, to maintain it and so on. Now there's a practical solution on that, where you're actually providing something practical to community in addition to the historic preservation of the space.
Okay, awesome. And one last thing, so what's one sentence, why should the Kingville site be saved?
I think that it's important to have a historic thread to how the community lived post-slavery liberation, and how the community developed post the community liberation, got education, got trades, and survived and learned how to thrive.
Okay, awesome.